Hi, this is Kirk, the bariatric carnivore. Are you new to carnivore? Have you not even started yet? Great, because I want to suggest very strongly that you do something before you start, and that's get baseline blood work done. This is going to give you probably the most encouragement that you possibly can that what you're doing is actually making a real benefit to your health. I wish I had done this, and I strongly encourage people that are brand new to this to go ahead and do it. And what it involves is doing your own blood test. Now that does not mean that you sit there and you draw blood yourself. What you can do is order your own blood test online. There's a bunch of companies that do this and they offer discounted rates. You don't need your doctor's permission to get a blood test. You can get it done yourself. And in this case, I highly recommend that you do this yourself, not using your insurance, but to go ahead and spend the $30 or so to get your own these blood tests done on your own. Because what they may show is that you're diabetic or that you have really high cholesterol. And if they do, and your insurance company sees that, there's a real good chance you may get denied life insurance down the road. Because all these, you may think your health information is private and that it only is between you and your doctor, and that's not true. One of the things that went through with Obamacare when it passed was they created a health database. All of them are synced together. Unless you go to a doctor's office that still uses paper charts, odds are your doctor puts all your medical information into a computer, and you may be wondering, well, where does that information go? It stays there at the office, right? No, it goes into a central database that is owned by the federal government and run by private contractors. And those private contractors often sell and rent your data to other companies. And some of the people that are looking for that data include insurance companies. Your insurance company knows what your cholesterol level is. They know what your A1C is. And if, God forbid, and probably odds are if you're like most Americans, when you're just starting out off in a healthcare journey, you're probably type 2 diabetic. The way the medical system looks at it right now is once you're type 2 diabetic, you'll always be a type 2 diabetic and you're only going to get worse. I don't think that's true. I think the data shows conclusively that type 2 diabetes is not only reversible, but I think curable for all practical purposes. Because look, if you're not on insulin and you're not constrained and your blood sugar's not jumping all over the place, I think you don't have type 2 diabetes anymore. Type 2 diabetes is really just an indication of a bad diet. So, what blood test do you ask for? And these are the baseline ones that I think are vitally important. The number one blood test you want to take a look at is your A1C. Now, you may not have ever seen an A1C test before. Your doctor may never ask for it. But what it is it's your red blood cells live for 3 months in your bloodstream. And every time it bumps into sugar, a little bit of that sticks to the red blood cell. It's called a process called glycation. And you can measure the amount of sugar that's been glycated around the red blood cell, and that will give you a pretty good indication of what your average blood sugar is like. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give you the numbers that I think you're looking for, but I want you to get that number. Find out what your blood sugars have averaged for the last 3 months by getting an A1C level. The next one is in the cholesterol panel. There's 2 numbers, triglycerides and your HDL, the high density lipoprotein. Now, neither of these are the kiss of death, and please do not freak out if your numbers are not going to be all that great at first. That does not mean that you're going to die tomorrow. But what it is, it's a baseline marker for how well you're doing with the diet. So that's the way I want you to look at it. I don't want you to be looking at this like, oh, I'm going to die if I have bad numbers. This is just a start. So what you do is you put your HDL number, your triglyceride number above the HDL. and you divide. So put that in the calculator. You put in the triglyceride, divide sign, then your HDL, and hopefully that number is as close to 1 or below as possible. What you want is high HDL. That's the so-called good cholesterol. You want that high, and you want your triglycerides low. Unfortunately, most people in the United States have very high triglycerides and low HDL. Okay, that is what it is. This is where you're starting. You haven't even started the diet yet, so kind of expect that number to be bad. If you're like most people, that's going to be a bad ratio. You're probably going to be 3, 4, 5, something like that. It doesn't mean you're going to die. It just means that's where you're starting from. Then the next number you want to get is your fasting insulin. Most doctors don't test this, but it's a great indicator of just how bad your blood sugar is. If you may think, oh, my blood sugars are not, when they did the fasting blood sugars, they weren't all that high, and they said I was fine at the moment. But when you look at the insulin levels, insulin, if you've got a high fasting insulin, that means you've got way too high a blood sugar. That is a great sign of, they may call it pre-diabetes or pre-type 2 diabetes, but you're, for all practical purposes, a type 2 diabetic, you're doing damage to your arteries. All these indicators, all these markers, what they're doing really is showing how much inflammation you've got in your body. The damage that comes to the arterial walls comes from chronic inflammation. When you eat too many carbs, when you have too high a blood sugar, for a long period of time, you inflame the arteries and you never really relax. And tears happen in what's called the epithelium level of the arteries. And when those small tears happen, the body puts cholesterol in it, trying to control it, to help it heal. Cholesterol is a healing molecule. If we could wave a magic wand over every single one of you and take away all your cholesterol, your heart attack risk isn't going to go to 0. You're going to be dead. Cholesterol is in every cell of your body. It is vital for your health, and it also does a lot to help healing. It is actually not a bad thing to have if it's healthy cholesterol. We'll talk more about cholesterol later, but for right now, don't freak out about the cholesterol number. What you care about are these 3 markers. Now, that's your baseline. That's where you're starting. Measure it again 3 months from now. That's when all the blood cells that, when you start, 3 months after you start keto or carnivore, get them done again, and you will see what's happened to your A1C after 3 months. Odds are it's going to go down pretty dramatically. And that's a good thing. That's what you want to have happen. That should be a high five to you that what you're doing is actually making a difference. You're lowering your blood sugars on a daily basis, which means you're lowering the chronic inflammation. The triglyceride HDL ratio should be getting closer to 1 after 3 months. That's another great sign. Again, lowering chronic inflammation. When your insulin level starts to drop, that's a fantastic indication, because the job of insulin is, insulin's a good thing. I mean, you have to have some insulin in your system. If you don't have it, you're going to die. Look what happens to type 1 diabetics, are people that cannot produce insulin. That's why they have to inject it constantly. But the reason why type 1 diabetes was called a wasting disease before they had insulin is type 1 diabetics always started losing weight like crazy. It's one of the symptoms of being a type 1 diabetic, because insulin stores fat. When your insulin levels start to drop, that means your body is utilizing your fat for energy. You're burning it. That's a good thing. And that's one of the things you should start to see, a pretty dramatic drop in your overall insulin levels as you go through this, and you keep getting stronger and better and healthier. When you don't put in processed food, when you get rid of the carbs, When you get rid of that processed sugar, you're going to see a dramatic change in all these different levels. And when you get rid of the vegetable oil, you're going to get rid of the vegetable oils. You will start to see your HDL going up because you're getting that type of better cholesterol that you need. And you will see your triglycerides levels go down as you reduce the amount of carbs into your system. And the closer you get that ratio to 1, the healthier you're going to be. It is like one of the number one indicators of longevity and reduction of heart attack risk that exists. It is a test that your doctor probably never told you about, but it is fantastic because what you want to do is get rid of the metabolic syndrome that is plaguing 70% of Americans. So these tests, after 3 months, if they don't improve, so go see your doctor. If those don't improve after 3 months of no carbs or greatly reduced carbs and getting off processed food, those ain't changing. That's an indication you need to go see your doc right away. But if you're like most people, you're going to see a vast improvement in there, and that hopefully will encourage you to continue your carnivore diet, which isn't really a diet. Because we have a tendency to use the term diet like that's a short-term fix. Really what we're doing is creating a carnivore lifestyle, getting to a proper human diet where we can stay on a sustainable track that will make us the healthiest the longest. That's my goal. I want to stay on this way of eating for the rest of my life. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life, and I've ever been healthier. In my blood work, I get it done once a year, and I pay for it myself, just to see what I'm doing, take a look underneath the hood. There's other blood tests, and we'll talk about those later. If you want to interpret your test, I've included a couple of links. There's a couple of good books. One of them's from called Do Your Own Blood Work by Dr. Ken Berry. Excellent resource. And there's another one from Mike Mutzel, who explains the blood tests that he recommends on an annual basis. But for right now, just, and I'll include a link to a couple of different blood test sites. I don't have any interest in them at all. They're just places where you can order the blood work. You order your blood work online. You go to a lab, they draw it, they email you the results within a couple of days. Again, don't do it through your insurance company. Don't do it through your doctor. Just go ahead and get it done. Spend the $15, $20, whatever it takes to get these basic tests done so that you have a good baseline going into this whole experience. So 2 blood tests, and you will know with certainty of if the diet changes that you're making with keto or carnivore are making a difference. And I almost suspect that 99.999% of the people watching this video, they will only see improvement. So it's worth the investment. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I'm glad you're here. If you want to be part of this tribe, if you want to find out more about how to take control of your own health, please hit the like and subscribe button. It means a lot. Hit the bell button, which notifies you whenever I do a video, usually every day. And looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, where I've got more bright ideas on how to take control of your health. Remember, we're all alone in this fight for our health, but we're all alone in this fight together.